So just the idea of too many interests, spreading myself too thin, then having health issues because of that, physical, emotional, psychological, whatever they might be, breaking the body down, for example. And maybe that relates to an addictive personality, like, oh, I'm interested in this, I'm interested in that, I'd like to do that. I have a student of mine that I'm thinking of, and he has this too, where there's anything that you mention, he's going to be interested in, probably have a story about, have a question about, related to another thing, an adventure in his life. And it's always very exciting, like, oh my God, you also did that, you owned one of those, you went there, you know a guy that did that, and you studied it, you read books on that, that was a career you had, you used to do that. It's very, very exciting, but it's also very, very draining. So the way that I'm thinking about that is, let's say you're a car collector, right? So, however many you're picturing, 3 dozen cars, a few garages, parking lot, probably all these classic cars, and they're all interesting for different reasons. I'm not a car guy, but somebody that was a car guy that had all these cars would know, this is what's so interesting about this one. This is a straight six. This is only a 3-cylinder. This is the first one at Le Mans, or all these different stories about them there. And different ones are fun to take out on different days for different reasons. It's rainy today. We're going up in the hillsides today. We're going for a long cross-country drive. We're gonna test our half-mile splits down at the beach. So we're gonna, you decide which one to take. So you have all these cars, and you're interested in them. You're restoring them. You can tell me about them. There's interesting stories. Okay, so that's cool. Now, what we also know is that you can only drive one at a time. No way to do it any other way. So if you have 36 cars or 100 or 3 cars, some number more than one, right? So the broad and varied interests, which are interesting and exciting and thrilling and historical and educational and engaging and addictive, you still can only drive one at a time. Now, let's say you have 36 cars, I picked that number for some reason, and you say, well, we better put fuel in them, right? So now you have whatever 400 gallons of fuel you're going to put in to fill all the cars up, So $1,500 worth of fuel, right? That's a chunk of change. Go ahead and count out $1,500. That's not usually what I spend on fuel, right? It costs me $20-$30 to put some fuel in my vehicle. So I go and I spend $1,600 on fuel, which is a cost in terms of time, in terms of money, in terms of weight, and for the cars to have all this weight, right? And labor and attention, right? So it takes time to do that, right? And money. There's a cost to it. But you're only going to drive one car at a time. So if you were a person that had 36 cars, you'd probably just say, hey, it's raining today. I only have an hour. I need to, cycle this engine. Let's take this car, right? You put fuel in it and you drive for an hour or whatever your time is, and then you bring it back to the garage. You don't fuel them all up. So there's a difference between what you're interested in and how much engagement you give the things that you're interested in. So you have this breadth of interest, but you only have the ability to actively engage in a limited subset of the broad interests. So in this case, one car that you can drive. But to fuel all of the interests all the time, keep them all full, right, is less wise than saying, here's the one I'm currently able to engage in. Maybe I need to engage in it. Maybe it's just gotten me excited recently or something, that's fine. Then I fuel it. And the cost to you to fuel what it is you engage in is limited to what you're engaged in, as opposed to limited by the unlimited scope of your interests, right? So it isn't, I think, just a case of, well, let me narrow my interests, but let me accept my interests and say, hey, I'm a polymath. This is all exciting, right? I'm a gadabout. This is exciting stuff. But the things that I'm going to fuel are a much narrower band of the wide breadth of what your interest is. Then you don't suffer the same high costs of fueling every interest that you might otherwise. That make sense? Good. So